Welcome to this webinar, New York Manufacturing Extension Partnership Overview, Technology Resources and Grants for Manufacturers. I'm your moderator, Jenny Alton from the New York Small Business Development Center Central Office. This first webinar in our technology series, we are pleased to present FuzeHub with Eric Fasser, Solutions Program Manager, and Patty Rechberger, who is the Innovation Fund Manager. And we have 6 more webinars in this series that will be coming up. I'll post a link to the flyer with clickable links for the webinars for the rest of the series, should you wish to join us for any of those. We also have with us today Liam McMahon, who is a technology expert and certified business advisor with our Binghamton Center, and he will address us for just a few minutes before Patty and Eric begin. This webinar is brought to you by the New York Small Business Development Center network of 20 campus-based centers with lots more outreach offices located across New York State, along with the central office based in Albany. The NYSBDC is a U.S. Small Business Administration resource partner. Our free advising, education, and advocacy services are made possible by funding from the SBA, New York State, and our host campuses. So you know, this session is being recorded today. We will share this recording with attendees in the next few days, along with PDF copies of the slides in a follow-up email. Attendees are muted and will not be on camera. Your chats will only be visible to me and our presenters today. If you have any questions during the presentation, please don't hesitate to type them in the Q&A box as they come up. You can open Zoom's Q&A box from the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom window. Patty, Eric, and Liam will be monitoring the Q&A box so they can answer things as we go, and we may also address some questions verbally during the presentation. We also plan to leave some time for questions at the end of the presentation. Specific questions that may take more time and detail to answer, or if we run out of time to answer all questions, in those cases, we will be providing contact information where you can get in touch with Patty and Eric directly. You can also get in touch with us here at the NYSBDC. And so they will have contact information in the presentation. I will drop that in the chat as well. And then you can always reply to that follow-up email that you get to get assistance from the NYSBDC. I'll put some other NYSBDC links in the chat as we go. So with that, I will now turn the time over to Liam for just a moment before we feature our main presenters. Liam.
Hi, my name is Liam McMahon. I'm one of the technology advisors here at the New York State Small Business Development Center. For our part, we generally offer a host of services. Big focus is helping you with financial projections, business plan development. We also have a research network that can provide data on a number of different business-related questions. I always tell people when they reach out to us to ask us what we can help with, and if we can't, we can always find you the people that can. So we're always looking forward to working with you and assisting you however we can.
All right, that is my cue. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. How's that look, Patty? Thumbs up? All right, very good. All right, well, thank you for the introduction, Jenny and Liam. So yeah, I'm Eric Fasser. I'm going to speak about FuzeHub in general and the solutions program that I manage, and then I'll turn things over to Patty to talk about the funding. You know, usually when we do these presentations, we kind of go through our FuzeHub mission and the company history, services provided, and all that. And honestly, it ends up being pretty boring until Patty starts talking about the funding. So I'm trying a new approach today. We're going to use a success story about a startup company that we helped, and that really kind of embraced our programs, and as a result has really accelerated their progress significantly. So today we're going to talk about a New York City company called Opal. They're a fashion-focused smart ring developer for personal safety. It's, I mean, you can see a couple of the prototypes there. The idea is that you can very discreetly text an emergency contact or call 911 or even sound a siren just by the press of a button. And it was kind of born out of necessity by one of the founders. Anyway, they originally reached out to FuzeHub looking for contract manufacturers and funding to start producing. But like most startups, they didn't really realize that there are a lot of other steps to go through before a contract manufacturer would really be interested in speaking with you. So we're going to walk through the path that they took, and along the way, I'll share some details about the support we provided. So Opal heard about FuzeHub through one of the business incubators within the NYSTAR network. For those who don't know NYSTAR, it's the Science Technology Division of Empire State Development. They provide us with funding from New York State. We also get funding from the federal government through the NIST MEP program, National Institute of Standards and Technology. I've got some reference slides later in the deck with more detail, so I'm not gonna go into that now, and it's really kind of boring anyway, so we'll skip over for now. So anyway, Opal went onto our website. They clicked on our Speak to an Expert button. It's front and center right on our homepage, and they entered a request. And a request consists of some basic contact information, a brief description about your product or business, and a brief statement about what kind of help you're looking for. So it's very easy for them to fill out. For reference, last year, Opal was one of about 220 companies that reached out to us. And of those, I think about a little over 70% were startups. So anyway, that online request enters directly into our system, our computer system, and ensures that somebody will respond to you usually within one working day. So once we get that request, the next step with Opal or with any company is to schedule a free 30-minute Zoom call so that we can find out more. The intake form is really kind of limited just to give some basic information. So we really want to dive in. We want to look at the company's status and find out, a little bit about the history of the company, how they got started, who's on the team, what other groups they might be working with. We also want to learn about the product. What's the core technology? What makes it unique or special? Is there any intellectual property? What stage is it at? Is a prototype built? Are you entering production? And have they done any type of customer discovery? Then we'll kind of take all that and discuss what they think their top needs and challenges are. Really, we're looking to prioritize their key pain points so that we can put them in touch with resources to help alleviate those. And as an aside, the number one request we get by far is probably no surprise, is funding. Usually, they don't have a good plan on how they're going to use that. They may say, I need funding to build this, but we've got resources and connections that can help stretch that funding even further. So chances are we can find a resource, usually also within the NYSTAR network, that's got expertise specific to their challenge. And a lot of times, because these other NYSTAR assets are also getting funding, a lot of times they can help subsidize a portion of any project costs. So again, it's just the idea is to help stretch any funding further. And I've got a couple examples of that with connections we made for Opal that I'll talk about. So once we have that assessment call, identify their needs, I then take that information from the assessment and debrief my team, which is made up of experts from various industries across New York. The goal is for us to come up with the best resources in terms of technical expertise and value to share with the requester. So in Opal's case, we connected them with a number of resources you can see here scrolling by on the screen. So I'll go through a few of those. So let's start with Syracuse University. Syracuse has a science and technology law center who provides intellectual property strategy and support. They don't write patents, but they will help with things like which type of patent should you apply for, or should you even apply for a patent? Maybe your technology is better off as a trade secret. They'll help with competitive landscape, prior art searches, determining if you would have freedom to operate with, if you did have a patent on your IP. And the best part is, if you are a startup company in New York, there's no charge for this. So then you can take this report to a patent attorney. If it turns out you do want to have a patent written, you can take that to a patent attorney, and it'll dramatically help offset the cost. Another example was the Integrated Electronics Engineering Center at Binghamton University. We connected them there for technical support, specifically for design and miniaturization of their circuit board. You can imagine it's in a ring, so the circuit board has to be extremely small. So the process of shrinking that down was something they needed a little bit more help with, as well as for prototyping, right? So Binghamton has facilities there where they can do all the technical work, and actually prototype parts as well. And if Opal was to go to a contract manufacturer for that, it would have been almost prohibitively expensive. So the IEEC at Binghamton is just one example of 31 facilities around New York that are known as Centers for Advanced Technology or Centers of Excellence. And these are great resources for establishing public-private partnerships, doing applied research, and technology transfer. And again, because they are a NYSTAR funded agency, they typically can help subsidize a portion of any project costs. Next one I want to talk about is ICOR. This is a customer discovery program from the National Science Foundation. It's a free course, again, to help entrepreneurs validate their customers' wants and needs and avoid falling into that trap of, I built this prototype in my garage and I showed it to all my friends and family and they all said it was a great idea, right? So that happens more often than you think. This is really a program to teach you how to ask the right questions and how to get the right feedback. So it helps you really identify what is the product people are looking for. It can also help with pricing expectations. What is the market going to bear on this? And then you can bag into that to get your target costs. So really, really valuable program. They have virtual and in-person offerings. They're ongoing throughout the year, all across the state. There's multiple centers that offer it. And also, if you do complete one of these regional New York programs, you can then apply for a national program. And the national program has a $50,000 potential grant that comes with it. Some of these other entities I have up here are contract manufacturers. So once a company's ready, once they've kind of proven their product, come up with a drawing package and the right documentation, then we can introduce them to a contract manufacturer. In Opal's case, we connected them to companies that do high volume circuit board assembly, small part casting and molding, metal expertise. We've got a huge internal database. The companies are vetted. We'd like to focus on ones that are friendly to startups. So those are the type of connections that we look to make there. Lots of companies will submit the request, go through the assessment, get the recommendations that we've made, and just kind of take it from there. And that's fine. Some of them come back with a new request once they've solved their initial challenge, and then we'll help with the second one. But some of them, like Opal, will really take advantage of the other programs we offer, like our events. So we host dozens of in-person and virtual events every year, focused on really just helping manufacturers and technology companies to identify best practices. We look at industry trends. On our forums, our live events, they can engage one-on-one with resources and other experts. They can network with peers and who might be operating in the same space and potential investors. So really, some great events. Some of these events are general, right? We might have a very general topic. Some of them are industry specific. So for example, last year we did events in the transportation space, clean tech, food and agriculture, automation, for example. So in addition to some of the webinars, Opal also participated in a couple that I've noted here. The first one is in our FuzeHub Fundamentals series. It was a hardware prototyping workshop. So this is a live hands-on event. We held it at SUNY New Paltz, and it was really focused on helping companies figure out how to take an idea from a concept to a prototype to a fully designed and documented product, complete with a drawing package. in preparation for sitting down with a contract manufacturer and going over the parts so they can actually get parts made and get quotes and look at what's the future of the product going to be. The workshop was a combination of some short presentations and then breakout sessions where we had mentors go around from team to team and give some insights. And then we concluded with a tour of the 3D printing facility there at SUNY New Paltz. And we are planning another one for probably August of this year. The other event they participated in was our Innovation Summit. This by far is FuzeHub's largest event each year. 500 plus attendees, 100 plus exhibitors. Opal was an exhibitor at that event, so they got exposure to resources and other contacts within the New York State innovation ecosystem. And the Innovation Summit also acts as the venue for our commercialization competition live pitch event, of which Opal was a finalist, and also took home an award for $50,000. So I don't want to steal Patty's thunder, but I'll give a very brief teaser. The commercialization competition helps startups take their existing prototype to the next level. So Opal was looking for funding to help them with production of their pilot run for the customers on their wait list. And in that case, the previous connections we had made to the I-Core program, I think really helped their application stand out. Adds a lot of credibility to it. The other main fund that we offer is the manufacturing grant. This requires a manufacturer to partner with a nonprofit. Opal was also awarded one of these. And again, the previous connections that we made to Binghamton University, who acted as their nonprofit, played a big part in their application being approved. Occasionally, there are other funding opportunities we have. We currently have an advanced materials initiative going on, some cybersecurity grants. We're just wrapping up a Department of Defense project funding opportunity. In the past, we've done things like when COVID hit, we had some special funding for COVID activities. We've done a build for scale and lots more. And what I would say is the best thing to do would be subscribe to the newsletter so you can stay up to date as those new programs are announced. So for this success story to be true success story, that will mean helping Opal create economic impacts. So things like growing their sales once they launch the product full scale, helping them realize cost savings, helping them get other investments, helping them create jobs, or even with some other companies, we look at jobs that they've saved by reaching out to us for help that might otherwise have been eliminated if they couldn't kind of turn things around in their business. So those economic impacts are what we're really looking for. And when we can take the resource matching and the events and training and the project funding, and that all comes together to make a company successful, then that's what we're looking for. Then we can report those impacts to our funding agencies and show that we're helping stimulate the economy in New York and justify our continued funding. So it kind of acts as our report card. So anyway, before I turn things over to Patty, I put some supplemental information at the end of the slide deck just to have it for reference later on. So I'll just run through those very, very quickly. As I mentioned briefly, the New York MVP Manufacturing Extension Partnership is part of a national program. The national program consists of 51 centers, one in each state and plus one in Puerto Rico. This is a NIST initiative, the National Institute of Standards and Technology, developed back in the 1980s to enhance productivity and technology performance of U.S. manufacturers. And while the 2023 data hasn't been compiled yet, you can kind of see some impacts that the program had on U.S. manufacturing in 2022. And within New York, the manufacturers and technology companies are supported by 11 centers. There's one statewide center, that's us, FuzeHub, and then there's 10 regional centers that correspond to the 10 economic regions in New York. And collectively, these 11 centers, we all have the same mission: to help small and medium-sized manufacturers in New York. And we define that as companies with up to 500 employees, and they can be in traditional manufacturing fields like consumer goods, metal product, wood product, plastic, injection molding, but also things like biotech, food and agriculture, textiles, chemicals, and so on. So really, if anything that's taking components or ingredients, putting them together and making something different is kind of a manufacturer. Patty might also talk about this a little bit too, but the scope of what manufacturing means is changing and tweaking a little bit as well. So now it's expanding beyond that into other technology fields. So if you're not sure, reach out, and we can advise if it's something that kind of fits within our purview. And you can see last year alone, about 7,000 jobs and over $1 billion in sales and cost savings investments were all made possible by companies working with New York MEP centers. We accomplish this by helping companies in a number of different areas across all different company stages. So whether your company just starting out or you've been around for decades, New York MEP is a great way to kind of tackle some of these technology related challenges. I also mentioned we're part of the NiStar network. We work very closely with all these other innovation assets. Previously I mentioned a couple like Syracuse Law Center, the IEEC at Binghamton, which is one of the 15 centers for advanced technology. So just be aware that those are there. So as a final recap, most of the success story was focused on the solutions program and the connections we make. But I also showed how we collaborate with the Innovation Fund, with various event and training opportunities we offer, and just want to mention that FuzeHub offers marketing services like website development, sales collateral, podcasts, things like that. All are tailored to manufacturing. So really, this will help ensure that once you kind of do go through and come up with a successful product, the potential customers are going to be aware of it and ready to buy it. And with that, here's some key links that I mentioned. Again, my contact info is there, so feel free to reach out. And with that, I will turn it over to Patty.
All right, thank you, Eric. So I'm going to talk about the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. That's the fund that I manage. It does not encompass every funding opportunity available at FuzeHub. Eric mentioned a couple of funding opportunities with the DoD, the cybersecurity, advanced materials. Those are above and beyond the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. The funding that Eric spoke about is not constant, right? So these are things we're constantly looking for new sources of funding, and both the federal and the state government may have initiatives and specific funding for specific things in specific departments. So we're always trying to take advantage of those and have those available to companies as well, to the manufacturers. But the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund is yearly. It started in 2016. So we had the first round of manufacturing grants in 2016. And since then, we have awarded 180 projects, and we helped just as many manufacturers get funding and get their projects advanced. We awarded $8.7 million to date. This is as of end year 2023. And that generated $176 million in economic impacts, which Eric kind of spoke about, right? So this is new jobs, retained jobs, new sales, new investments, and overall economic growth in New York State. And within that, over 930 new and retained jobs for the companies, just for the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. So as part of all the programs available at FuzeHub, the Innovation Fund offers funding for manufacturers, and that's what I'm going to really focus on for the remainder of this presentation. The Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund encompasses 3 tracks. We award about $1.5 million a year, every year, within all tracks. The manufacturing grants has 2 application periods. Everything is application period based, and I'm going to get into details of every specific program as we go along. But just as an overview, the manufacturing grants has 2 rounds every year, usually on the first half of the year. Then in the middle of the year, we open the application period for the commercialization competition that only happens once a year. And the Innovation Challenge is an intermittent track. It happens when we have additional funding or additional programs available, in our funding. I've had, and they are specific to certain industries. Let me rephrase that. They're industry specific when they're available. So I've had one in food and ag, I had one in advanced materials, and I do expect one in 2024 in the microelectronics field. We're going to talk about that as well. So the basics, this is true for all of our tracks. Everybody has to be in New York. I'm going to talk about how the manufacturing grants require a partnership with a not-for-profit. So the manufacturing company has to partner with a not-for-profit. Both entities have to be in New York. There is a caveat, for example, for startups working with an incubator, the founder might be working from somewhere else and have a virtual space in the incubator. For the manufacturing grants, that's generally an easy eligibility. They are eligible to apply. For the competition, we might need a little bit of a stronger tie, but we can work on the details as we go along this presentation. Any questions that come up specific to eligibility, you can ask now, or we can connect at a later point to clarify. But generally, that's what's required. The manufacturing company applying for funding, whether directly or as an industry partner to a not-for-profit, must have an account with Dun & Bradstreet, and in their account profile, they must have a NAICS code that is either specific to manufacturing, or there's a list of additional what's considered manufacturing support roles that are acceptable as well. As Eric made mention, NIST updated that list for 2024, so now it includes things like computer systems. And so Eric made mention of some of the eligibility requirements. I often talk about medical devices. So medical devices, right? So a manufacturer you think of as having a physical product, and a medical device typically is a physical product. But in the last few years, I've been getting a lot of requests from companies that have what they call software as medical device. And this has largely fell into a sort of gray area to explain. Sometimes the software is tied. It does need a manufacturing component, a physical component, but it's not, the physical component is off the shelf. So does that make them a manufacturer or not? So that's getting a little bit clearer now. We're catching up to the technologies available, so that might be eligible in some of our tracks. Again, when there's a question in that sort of eligibility, please reach out, and we might have to clarify on a case-by-case situation. In general, our awards go from 15,000 to 150,000. So the specific amounts are specific to each track and each round. I'm going to give the breakdown by track as we progress. And in all of our tracks, the application is project-based. So when a company puts in an application for funding, what they do is actually give us a project. If awarded, this is what I'm going to do with the money. And then if awarded, you have 12 months to complete the project that you were funded for. What? Did it not change? Okay, so the specifics to the manufacturing grants. As mentioned, the manufacturing company must partner with a not-for-profit. They can be in any stage of revenue and in any stage of development. So you can be a manufacturing company even if you just had an idea last night. As long as you go on and start your company and you get a DMB account with a NAICS code, you're eligible to apply. So some of the projects for the manufacturing grants can be as early as proof of concept. Anything in between, you may have a prototype, you may be developing a prototype, you may be improving your prototype, you may be already producing, you may already have scale, you might want to improve your process, create a new product, you may want to automate the line. So anything at any stage of development or revenue is available, is eligible for the manufacturing grants. This is the broadest track we have. At this point, I often get asked a lot of questions about the not-for-profit. So, Patty, who do I partner with, right? When the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund was first created in 2016, this program was they had a strong focus on getting the NISTAR resources that Eric spoke about to connect with companies, and we would fund their projects. And it was a way to further support FuzeHub's mission. But just like Solutions has grown and expanded that network, so has the fund. So any New York State not-for-profit is eligible to apply. That said, the majority of our funding goes to universities. There's a lot of tech transfer-based projects. So research departments, universities, for example, I have in my portfolio, Binghamton University working with Opal to develop the very small scale microelectronics is a perfect example of the original intent of the manufacturing grants. But that's about 60%, I think, of the awardees go that route. Then about 25% are NISTAR resources. So we've gone way above that. About 10% are the local MEP centers. So the 10 regional MEP centers are eligible to apply, and they do, and they typically get 10% of our awards by merit. This is not, there's no everybody's scored equally regardless of the not-for-profit. But then the rest of the awardees are typically other types of not-for-profits. So anything, an economic development agency, as long as they're not a government agency, but a private not-for-profit economic development agency, they are eligible to apply. A co-op that is a not-for-profit, incubators and accelerators that are not-for-profit are eligible to apply. So there's a plethora of organizations that can apply. In the manufacturing grants, the applicant team chooses the amount of the award between $15,000 and $65,000. So you tell us how big is your project, how much funding you need for it. And so, so if you have a small project, you can still apply and just ask for less money if you can't justify the full $65,000. These numbers are higher. We just increased them from 2023. Very excited about it. We are probably going to give away about 7 awards per round. Like I mentioned, there's 2 rounds of the manufacturing grants. The first round opens soon in January 15, and the application period is open until February 14, and then we close the applications. They go through scoring, and all of the applicants are notified of their status, whether or not they were awarded sometime in April, just in time for the second round. If you were not awarded on the first round, you are definitely eligible to apply in the second round. You could reapply with the same project, maybe ask for some feedback, tweak the application, make some improvements, and try again. You can partner with somebody else. So both the not-for-profit and the manufacturer, if they were not awarded, they can choose different partners, apply with the same project and a different partner, or same partner, different project. And the rounds are completely independent, so you can do whatever you like. And then on May 14, we close the second round, and then we go through the scoring, and everybody's notified around July, and that's the end of the manufacturing grants for the year. And this is a true grant. You get the money, you complete the project. In the case of, for example, testing materials or scaling up a prototype, sometimes the project, quote unquote, goes wrong, right? You don't achieve the success you were hoping for, but it doesn't matter. If you put in the work and you can justify all the work you did and support all your expenses, you get the money, and then we close there. And maybe that's one way to de-risk the technology, or hopefully the vast majority of our projects succeed, and then it's a success story. And either way, we'll keep supporting you. This is a long-term relationship. The end of the project does not end the relationship with FuzeHub. Very excited for 2024. We changed the application process from an all-paper questionnaire to a video. So now the applicant team has 10 minutes to make their case, present the 2 organizations. So the not-for-profit representative is on camera telling us all about the not-for-profit organization, what they do, what's their participation, what's their role in the project. Then the manufacturing company does the same. Then they tell us why they decided to work together. And then they talk to us about the technology and the product being developed. Why is this funding important? Where are they now in terms of development? and where will this funding take them and beyond. So, and then they're talking about economic impacts, because that's how we get funded. We have to require economic impacts of the projects. So this is what makes a strong application. First and foremost, should go without saying, but you'd be surprised about me having to specify this. Be clear on the description of your product and or technology. Sometimes people are too close to it, too enamored with the technology, and don't realize that somebody who's never heard of it might not understand what you're talking about. And I'm not talking about not understanding technical requirements. I'm talking about, you give me the technology, but you don't explain to me how exactly is that a product, or who exactly is that for, or how does that fit in the bigger project, right? So my recommendation is to develop your application and then give it to somebody with technical knowledge who's not familiar with your specific technology, and let them tell you if they understood it or not. Because if the judges don't understand what you're doing with your technology, your score is going to suffer. Then obviously the economic impacts, we ask for them to be specified, quantified, and supported. So instead of saying, this will create great jobs and we're going to have great revenues, tell us this will create one engineering job, one line machinery job, 2 support role jobs. This is going to create, we expect $10,000 in sales next year and $100,000 in sales in 2 years. Be specific and support it. Well, how did you get to those numbers? Talk to us about the synergy between the organizations. Make sure this doesn't read as a pass-through. So the not-for-profit must have an active role in the project. So when you find a not-for-profit to work with, they can't just be managing the grant. They need to have some kind of active role in the project. And don't leave any gaps in the team unspoken for. You may have a gap in the team. That's okay, because maybe you can't fill that role until you get the funding. But tell us, once we get the funding, this is how we will find a person to close that gap. Here I give a few examples of applications and how they scored. So you see on your screen, Project A was a delivery drone network. They talked about impacts in a somewhat generic way. They had a very good team of engineers, which was completely appropriate for the project. Application B was an enzyme biochemical pesticide. Their impacts were specific and quantified, and their team included engineers and PhDs, which was appropriate for this particular project, right? Because it was biotechnology, they needed PhDs. Application A didn't need that, which is fine. So they both scored about the same in the team. Application B scored slightly better in terms of the technology and how innovative it is, because the judges saw the drone space as being a crowded market, and not as innovative as a biochemical pesticide. So application A is scored what would have been a C grade, and application B is scored a B+. Application B got awarded, application A did not. Here's another example comparison. So application A had 1 manufacturer. For the manufacturing grants, you can have up to 5 industry partners. Generally speaking, the more partners, the stronger the application, because the more entities are benefiting from the project. So application A was a better battery for pacemakers. So very innovative, very important field. Their impacts were very specified. The team was perfectly appropriate. Application B had 2 manufacturers, so a little bit better in that regard. They had high velocity hot air surface cleaner, so a machine that cleans surfaces. Think of parking lots with hot air, so very quick drying. So this is their main clients would be runways, airports, anything with the Department of Transportation, large surfaces that need to be cleared out of rain and snow quickly. And they partnered, the other manufacturer was a novelty recycled glass roll demarcation. So right before putting the marks down with this glass, very visible recycled glass material, they need to clean the surfaces very well. And so they would work together. Those were the 2 manufacturers, and they partnered with a not-for-profit. Again, the impacts were very specific, but the judges saw this as a sales transaction. Basically, manufacturer one was making a sale to manufacturer B. So the road demarcation manufacturer was buying the air cleaning service from the manufacturer of the cleaning machines. And so they didn't score that well, although these two applications scored similarly. Neither one of them ultimately was awarded. And here's an example, another manufacturer in the same round they are developing lumber made from hemp, and they had quantified impacts and an appropriate team, and they got several points over those two applications. So every point counts. The point I'm trying to make here is that you have to score highly in every category. This is a very competitive program, but that said, it's very doable. So even though application A had PhDs in their team and application C did not, application C was awarded, application A was not. So it's not so much the complexity of the project, but do you check mark all of our categories? And of course, our guidelines show you all the scoring categories, and we can go through that as well. And if anybody has a question, we can go through that. So this is a portfolio of awardees on our manufacturing grants. This is just a tiny fraction of the companies, of the not-for-profits I put in the slide that we have awarded. So in here, you see the Binghamton University Integrated Electronics Engineering Center that was awarded with OPAL, with the project that Eric described thoroughly, but there's all kinds of other organizations here. I have incubators, accelerators, different universities, different departments within them. The Brooklyn Navy Yard has a business support. They have the new lab within their facility that supports startups. The Hudson Valley Textile Project is sort of a co-op for textile companies. So, we run the whole gamut of not-for-profits in New York. Okay, now the commercialization competition. For the competition, manufacturers apply directly. They must be a startup, so this is much more limited in scope. And by that, what we mean is revenue under $100,000 to date, sales under $100,000. By revenue, I do not include any grants or any investments. So we only look at revenues. There is a limit to how many grants the company may have received in the last 2 years. I think it's in the order of $2 million. And they have to have at least the first iteration of their prototype. So as long as they have a first iteration of their prototype and they're trying to get that to market, the goal of the commercialization competition is to get that product that the startup is developing to market. And so you give us the plan. This is a business plan competition. So you give us all the aspects of a business plan. This has been a video presentation for a long time. And so you submit your application. Everybody competes for $60,000. Once you submit your application, and the dates I have in your screen are almost set in stone. They are somewhat tentative, but I expect to open it in July 8 this year and close it in August 7. Then the applications go through an internal scoring process. We select 12 finalists to pitch live at the New York State Innovation Summit, which is at the On Center in Syracuse this year, October 28 and 29. They pitch live, and then judges decide the companies that get $60,000. So typically I give about half a dozen awards at the competition, give or take. And then one company gets the grand award of $150,000. This is not technically a grant. Awardees must sign a SAFE, which is the simple agreement for future equity. So it's technically an investment. Companies that are not prepared to sign a SAFE should not apply, because if you don't sign the SAFE, you do not get the award. What makes a strong application here is what makes any business pitch strong. Look at it as you're looking for an investor, right? So again, clear description of your product and technology, clear path to market. How are you bringing it to the people who are going to benefit from it? Who pays for it, right? This is important in a series of industries. It's not always clear who is going to pay for your product, and it's not always the end user who pays for it. A strong customer discovery, any work with iCore, show us that you've talked to the people who are actually going to pay for this, not just your friends and neighbors who are going to tell you your baby is gorgeous. Have a discussion about competition. But people sometimes leave it out because they either think that their product is such a novelty that it has no competition, or it's not worth talking about, or if you don't mention it, your score will suffer. The judges will consider that every product has a competition, even if the competition is doing nothing. I just do nothing and I don't buy your product because it's not compelling enough. That could be your competition if your product is new enough in a space that doesn't exist. So you must address it in order to make a strong application. And then again, the economic impacts have to be specified and quantified in long term. This is the portfolio of companies that have been awarded in the competition, obviously just a sample of it. So again, Oppo is here. There are companies here in the consumer space, Eco Baggies. Level Nutrition is a food manufacturer. Spark Charge is a electronic vehicle charger. And Ashland Energy is also in the battery space. RA, Jellicola, and Ivy Wedge are medical devices manufacturers. Photonet Interconnect Solutions is in the microchip industry. Renewable is agricultural products. So any manufacturing industry is eligible to apply and tends to do well. Finally, the innovation challenge is the third and last track in the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Field Fund. I do expect to have an innovation challenge this year in the microelectronics industry. I don't have details for it yet. I do expect, but none of this is defined, fully decided yet. I expect that this will require a partnership with a not-for-profit industry organization. This will be a grant and not require any kind of financial investment, and applications will likely be open late this year. That's all I have for now. As Eric mentioned before, the best way to keep updated in all of our funding opportunities is to sign up for our newsletter. For all of our programs, the tracks in the Jeff Lawrence Fund, these are the eligible costs. All your eligible costs are costs directly related to the project you're asking to fund, and none of the overhead. Overhead is ineligible. So equipment, materials, supplies, engineering and design, personnel, consultants, laborers, your lab facility costs, project-related travel, customer discovery. These are generally all eligible. In the personnel, I must make the very strong caveat that executive pay is ineligible in all tracks, in all rounds. So in a startup company where the founder is also an engineer or even the PhD and has the expertise to develop the product and they're doing the work themselves, their time is not eligible for reimbursement. Marketing is eligible in the commercialization competition track. It is not eligible in the other ones. Any other specific direct project-related costs are generally eligible. And then we can talk about costs as a company is awarded and they start the project and things come up and you might need to spend money in a certain way that is very specific to your project. We're always just a call or an email away, and I can quickly let you know whether or not a cost is eligible for reimbursement. And then the ineligible costs are generally your overhead, administrative costs, office rent, utilities, any project admin, like I mentioned, all the executive personnel, both on the not-for-profit and the manufacturer side, any travel that is not justified, any travel that I do not get receipts for. We do not pay per diem. We do require receipts at this point. Any intellectual property related costs in terms of paying for a patent or paying for a patent lawyer, those costs can add up to your entire award. So we don't want to make this an IP award. So those costs are not eligible for reimbursement. Professional costs like a lawyer, consultant, no, not a consultant. If it's a technical consultant, yes. If it's a business consultant, probably not. But a lawyer, an accountant, any kind of business related professional cost is not eligible, and then marketing for the manufacturing grants is not eligible. Okay, so that is the deep overview of the ways you can get funding with the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. So these are some of the links. The Innovation Fund line is the landing page on our website where you can get links for all of the tracks, and you can get information on everything that is available. And all of the information for the first round of manufacturing grants that is opening January 15 is available on our website already. So if you go there, you will have access to the guidelines and all of the application materials and all the specifics of the scoring and what you do for the video and all that stuff. And we are actually creating having a little fun with this. We're creating a sample video for the application for this year since it's new. So that will be available in a week or two as well. That's it for me.
Fantastic. So much information. Wow. So I'm sure that we have more questions. I know that they have been answered in the Q&A box and in the chat as we've gone along. We'll give people a moment to enter some questions in that Q&A box. And while we do, I just wanted to mention that that series that we have coming up, some of those will be focused on some patent applications with the USPTO and also protecting technology abroad. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat again here for our technology series. If you would like to perhaps look at some of those other webinars that we have coming up. Also, I know Liam, our tech expert who is here from the NYSBDC, has had the experience of helping some clients to apply for these grants and even win with them. And so I wanted to give him just a moment while people gather their thoughts for any questions that they still have to put those in the Q&A box. So go ahead, Liam. And just so everyone remembers, we're addressing all questions through the Q&A box or the chat today. We are not taking any questions out loud, so please do make sure to get those questions into those locations so we can get them answered for you. Go ahead, Liam.
I just want to say, since we're waiting for questions to trickle in, I've had a number of clients work with FuzeHub over the years, and it's pretty much universally been an excellent experience. My big one last year was Norma Byron from Echelon Energy. That was an exciting win. So yeah, you guys have been an amazing resource for everyone, and we're always happy to help out and kind of get you all in touch with the right people.
Thank you.
Norma is on the call today.
Norma Byron is here?
She is, yes. So she just said, thanks, Liam, for the shout out. We're glad you're with us today, Norma.
Absolutely.
All right.
Hey, Patty, there was a couple of questions that came in that I took a shot at that probably worth you confirming. So one question was, what part would the nonprofit play in a manufacturing grant? Regarding manufacturing, what part would the nonprofit play in manufacturing and in sharing the grant? So maybe talk about like who the funding goes to, and they don't,
Great question. Yep. So once you're awarded, who spends the money is a decision to be made within the team. And so I'm answering backwards, but the point is, as long as everybody is contributing what we pay for, and as long as they are project related eligible costs, we'll pay for whatever part of the project, presuming that you might have more cost than what we're funding. And the money goes to the not-for-profit. So if the manufacturer is the one spending the money, the not-for-profit sends all the documentation to us, we send them the money, and then they pay the industry partner. But that said, we have no requirements. So all of the money can be spent within the not-for-profit, all of the money can be spent within the industry partner, or any combination there are. And so with that is also the work can be a combination of who does more work. So we don't have like a threshold. The work does not have to be divided 50-50, but there has to be some kind of contribution on both sides. So the not-for-profit doesn't have to necessarily manufacture anything. They don't even necessarily have to be the ones testing the technology or developing the technology. Although, in the case of universities and research labs, that's often the case, but that's not necessary for an award. So we really look at, is there a contribution and what the contribution is. So I know it's like it's generic, but I've seen so many scenarios. So I'm trying to think of an example to give that is not, so the obvious one is if the not-for-profit is, for example, testing the technology and the industry partner is the one that is going to actually sell the product, then it's clear that the synergy. I think it is. I hope it is for people hearing this. But in the case, for example, of MEP centers or incubators, the help might be more business-centric than technology-centric, and that's allowed as well. It may be the organization, the not-for-profit, is linking you to the experts that you require. Maybe they are trying to think. I think if it's not a direct technical work, then business support, and this is more for the startup companies, but it could be for developed companies because you might need business support in different ways. So I hope I answered the question.
Another one that came in was like, what are the odds? Like, how many applications do we get for each one? How many awards are there?
So I would say between 20 and 30% are your odds of getting an award once you submit an application, depending on the year, on the specific track. But I've kept track of those numbers. 20 to 30%, which is not bad in the grant world. So it is very competitive. A point can make or break your application, but within that, your general odd of getting awarded is pretty decent for the amount of work we require, which is not, obviously every grant, you have to put some thought behind it to make a quality application. But I think for the amount of effort you have to put into it, the odds of getting an award are of value.
Eric, anything else from the questions that have been in the Q&A box that you wanted to bring up verbally here?
No, but just a couple of new ones just came in, but I think
Yes.
we've been on top of them.
Yes. So we did have a question regarding the SBDC. So Liam, we'd love to have you address this one. This is from a person who says that she has met with some hurdles as far as grant applications. So how would the SBDC guide her through the grant application process?
The start is usually figuring out what grant specifically you're applying to. That's kind of gonna color a lot of the conversation. Generally speaking, it's starting kind of from the ground up, making sure that you have like a really good strong application in regards to, commercialization plan, financials, budget, all of that. I've seen a few people fall down pretty heavily, especially on the commercialization aspect. But again, it's really depends if you're applying for an SBIR, if you're applying for FuzeHub, something from FuzeHub. It really is gonna depend, but we can definitely have that conversation.
Yes, and I did put a link in the chat for anyone looking to get in touch with their local SBDC to help them with things like these, preparing things for these grant applications. So you can look for that in the chat there. All right. We do have a question too. Okay, Eric is answering that one right now about patent costs. Fantastic. Thank you. And Mark says thank you. So thank you for your thanks, Mark. We appreciate you. All right. Okay, so another question, multiply grants. Can any of you talk about those?
Yes. So you are only eligible to receive one manufacturing grant award per year, but you can apply every year. So if you get awarded on round one of manufacturing grants, you're not eligible to apply for round two, but you are eligible to apply on the following year. manufacturing grant awardees are eligible for competition, to apply for the competition. And in the past, everybody has been eligible to apply for the Innovation Challenge as well. I cannot promise you that this will be true for 2024, but it may. So generally, yes, you can receive 1 award per track per year. We did cap the amount of awards a manufacturing company can receive in their lifetime at 250,000. So you can see at our levels, that's multiple awards by the time we cap. This is new. We're still kind of testing it out, but it's one way to keep supporting the incomers.
Fantastic. And I know a few minutes ago you showed some different companies, but we've had a lot of questions come through about, well, does my type of manufacturing qualify? So could you kind of go over some of the range of businesses that you have had apply and win awards? Because
Absolutely.
like I said, we've been getting a lot of, this type, this type, this type. So I would love to have you talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so everything from the basic, well, we consider traditional manufacturing. So anytime you have a physical product, so I had questions about textile, apparel, food, beverage. We often joke around, like, if you make beer, you're a manufacturer because you have a physical product. That is all true. Medical devices, I mentioned several times. In the energy industry, everything from the battery maker to the car maker, although we don't have those in New York, but anything you can think of in between. In the energy, there's a lot of microchips. Anybody in the chip field in any part of it. Help me out here, Eric.
Do you want to maybe mention the NAICS codes and talk about how that process works and how we can help companies get that code?
Sure. I think just to answer the question in a generic way, because if people are not familiar with the NAICS codes, I don't know if the answer is the question, but basically if you just type NAICS code, NAICS code on your Google, you're going to come to a page and it has a list. Or perhaps even better, if you go to the Innovation Fund page and look at the guidelines, we have a list available of all the NAICS codes that are eligible for funding. Those are the NAICS codes that we work with at FuzeHub in general. So anything that starts with a 3 is a manufacturer. So, you can make dog food, you can make bowls. I've had companies awarded with hair care products, hair care, like you think of a hair dryer, they had a hair hydration system. EcoBaggies was a manufacturer of a substitute for your Ziploc bag. So it was a biodegradable, compostable, basically a specialty paper bag for sandwiches. Generator manufacturers, food I've already mentioned. So all of the NAICS codes that start with 3 are generating these categories, but then we have additional things like engineering services, packaging services. New to 2024, we have computer systems, and we're still trying to figure out what that exactly means. So if you, when in doubt, reach out. But if you have a physical component to your product, you're probably a manufacturer. I had makers of ink for 3D printing, right? So if you are developing a specialty ink that actually doesn't have to be 3D printing, for any printing, you're a manufacturer. So so it's extremely broad.
Now, along with that range of products, first I want to say I did just drop a link in the chat from the FuzeHub website about applying for a Dun & Bradstreet number and a manufacturing NAICS code. So go check that out in the chat. That'll give you some more information on what Patty was just talking about. So along with the range of different types of manufacturing, we've also had questions around the range of services for manufacturers at different points, whether they have a patent yet or not. They need help growing their business versus establishing their business, all of that. So could you just kind of do a little bit of a recap on that range of services that you offer to manufacturers at different points in their businesses as well?
Sure. So really, that's where that assessment call comes in handy, right? So we can figure out exactly what's going on and really try to pinpoint what are the services and what are the connections we can make for to handle those specific problems. It's not useful if I just send a list of something you could Google to say, oh, I need help with engineering. Oh, here's right. So what we really want to try and do is isolate exactly what type of engineering, who's the expert, who are the experts within New York that are doing research in that area that might be very interested in talking to them about applying some research that's being done maybe at a university, and getting that out in the market. So really, yeah, for any of those type of projects, if you're looking for a specific resource, if you aren't sure what services we have, if you're wondering if there's any help, funding or otherwise available in New York State, definitely just reach out and we can set up a quick call and talk through things. And pretty much all the questions have been fielding that have come in on the Q&A. There's absolutely resources out there that can help. So if you've got a product, if you've got a patent, you're not sure what to do with it, let's talk. That's where we tap into our network and try and find a fit.
Thank you. And I just dropped a link for requesting that consultation with FuzeHub into the chat. We've mentioned it before, but I wanted to put it in there again. And just to clarify, so that is free and no obligation, that type of thing. Okay.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, I can explain that a little more too. So,
okay.
So yeah, we want to basically generate a ticket in our system. So somebody responds. Usually, I'm the one that'll reach out. We'll set up a 30-minute Zoom call. Again, no obligation, no charge for that. We talk to our team. This is all part of us being a nonprofit. So we want to make connections that help the company be successful. Because if the company's successful, that reflects well on us, and that's basically our report card on how we get funding. So that's the catch, is they might have to fill out a survey at some point, but other than that, everything's free. Now, if we make a connection to somebody who provides a specific service like engineering, or some of the larger companies are doing things like lean or ISO certification or something like that has a cost associated with it. A portion of that may be subsidized, but in that case where there is a cost and a scope of work, that'll be between those two parties, right? That won't be part of FuzeHub. So.
Thank you. And so we do have a Mark with a raised hand. We're taking all questions through text. So please, if you have a question, get it in here to the question and answer box or the chat so we can help you out with that. And let's see, we had another question just come in.
Yeah, so it's a question about the exact pay, and I get that a lot. And I actually, in a previous presentation where I used the same slide, I actually went on to address this specific concern. I get this a lot. And I even get that from people who have already been awarded and then they submit payroll, project-related payroll, and then there's active pay in there, and then I have to take it out. And then, there's always, I understand this is upsetting, and I understand particularly at either small or new company, this can be difficult. So I feel your concern that it's discouraging, but this has been a part of this program from inception. It's not a requirement that I am able to work around. The thought process behind it, I think, is that if you are a founder, and you're working in it, you're going to do that anyway, whether we fund you or not. I know that's, you say, okay, but Patty, I got to pay the bills. I feel you. I really do. However, this is not a requirement that I can work around. So, but perhaps, the funding is helpful because then you don't have to pay for everything else that you might have to pay. But, we get applicants and awardees, where the founder is the person who knows the most about the project, and you certainly can and should work in the project, but your time is not an eligible requirement. And then maybe that will encourage you to hire somebody who work under you and learn the technology, and that could be just for the length of the project, or that could be, the perfect opportunity to test somebody out to grow your company. So hopefully that encourages you in a different way to reconsider.
Yes, so that executive pay issue.
Thank
you for addressing that.
Absolutely, it's an issue. I am aware of it. Unfortunately, the concept of the program does not allow for it, and I'm not able to work around it. I understand.
All right. So thank you for that question to the person who asked it. We also just got a question, will the info that was put in the chat be sent in the email? So yes, let me talk about that follow-up email. It's going to be coming likely tomorrow, and it will have the link to the recording of today's session. It will have the PDFs of these slides that Patty and Eric have shared with us today. And yes, I can put the links that we have been sharing through the chat into that email as well. So it's going to be chock full of information for you. Sorry, it'll be a bigger email, but it'll be packed with information. And so you should be able to expect that in your inbox tomorrow. All right, well, we are very close to time here. So I want to take this opportunity to thank Patty and Eric and Liam for being with us today. This, I think, has been a very useful session for our attendees, and so grateful for the information that you've shared. If you would take a few moments, our attendees, to take the post-webinar survey. We'd love to get your feedback from these webinar sessions. So please do, if you have a moment to do that, give us some feedback, and then look for that follow-up email. And if you would like to join us for more of our technology series, I will put a link for that in the email as well. We would love to see you at these upcoming webinars that we will be having through March. And Liam, who is with us today, will actually be presenting one of those on getting together the right team for your technology startup, which will be a great topic. And then we'll have the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office with us for a few, the founder of the Inventors Club for Women, talking on using technology or using intellectual property specifically for building a legacy as a woman in the technology industry. And so lots of interesting topics coming up. We also, if you're a newer a member of the manufacturing community, we're going to have an accountant speaking on the taxes and accounting aspects for technology startups. So if you're newer to this industry, join us for that. Lots of great information to come. And then I will turn it over here to Patty, Eric, and Liam for a few last words. Anything that you would like to wrap up with today?
No, just thanks for including us, and anyone out there, we gave our emails for a reason. Please feel free to use them. No question is silly, and we're here to help.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I second that. Thank you very much for taking the time. Thank you, Jenny and the SBDC, for the opportunity to present. We welcome every question, every connection. We're here to support you, to help you get further, whatever stage you're in or whatever your idea is. So let us help you. Liam,
any last words for our presentation today?
Outside of, I'll probably be sending a few more people your way in the next couple of days. Like I said, for everyone, I highly recommend reaching out to FuzeHub, and the SBDC is also here to help you any way that we can. So just let us know.
All right. Have a lovely rest of your day, everyone. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see you on another webinar coming up soon. Bye-bye.